All right, let's go through this worksheet. The integumentary system has two major types of tissue that stand out. So we've already established there's four major types of tissue. There is epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous. So the superficial layer of the integument is epithelial, and the deep layer of the tissue is connective tissue. So those are the major tissue types. The name of that superficial layer is going to be epidermis. The name of the deeper is the dermis. So epi on top of dermis. Epidermis, dermis. And then the deeper one, so the dermis, is where nerves, vessels, smooth muscle, hair follicles, glands are located. Now remember, hair, glands, nails, those are all epithelial derivatives, but you can see them embedded deeply into the dermis. There's also another layer underneath those top two layers, but technically not considered part of the integumentary system. This is the hypodermis, or you can call it the subcuticular layer. Most of this layer is which specific tissue type? That would be adipose tissue. So remember, please, that lab and lecture go together. If you're trying to memorize, you're not learning, but you're just memorizing, and you're not really grasping, understanding. So when I took up the worksheets yesterday, I just noticed a lot of confusion on these major tissue types. What is the specific tissue type? And it's the same. It's the same thing that we talked about as far as lab goes. Okay, function of the integumentary system. We actually did that in chapter 1, but I just want to show you that all this kind of stuff is in your text. So we've got the skin consists of two layers, dermis and epidermis. There's those pictures that you saw. The subcutaneous tissue lies deep to the skin, known as the hypodermis or superficial fascia. It's also called the hypodermis. Storing fat, blah, blah. So be sure and read your textbook to help you study, to help you understand. Okay, functions of the integumentary system. I'm not sure if it's the next page. I'm not going to waste time trying to find it. So, functions. 1, it protects you from the outside world, keeps the outside world from coming in. It's protective. It also helps keep your inside stuff in, so especially your water, prevents you from being dehydrated. This is why the number one worry of getting a burn is dehydration. Burn victims get put on IVs because if you lose too much water, you're going to die quick. All right. The integumentary system makes the precursors for vitamin D. It's called cholecalciferol. It does have to go through some changes in the liver to become vitamin D2, then in the kidneys to become vitamin D3, but it gets the ball rolling for vitamin D. In fact, there's not very many foods that are high in vitamin D. Potatoes are, mushrooms are, but there's really just not that many. So the sunlight is the easy, free way to get it, and we'll convert it in our bodies once we get the ball rolling by sunlight. We must have vitamin D at a normal level to absorb the calcium in our food. So if we do not have high enough vitamin D, then we're going to be low on calcium, and you'll see as we go through systems how terrible that is. What else? It has sensation, so it helps you know if something's touching you. You can recognize if there's heat close by, cold close by, somebody brushing you close by. Your hair actually helps insulate heat from your head. It protects your scalp. The integumentary system has some white blood cells that are protecting you in the connective tissue part. We also have dendritic cells in the epithelial part, macrophages in the connective tissue part. So we have lots of protection. It can be a heat regulator. So if you get too hot, or I should say temperature regulator, if you get too hot, your vessels in your skin, in your dermis, are going to vasodilate. That brings them closer to the surface so you can lose heat through your vessels. Besides sweating, losing heat through your vessels to the outside air. If you're too cold, those vessels in your dermis are going to vasoconstrict and pull away from the superficial layer so that you lose less heat. All right, so the more superficial section, that would be the epidermis, has several layers depending on if it's thin or thick. The layers from deepest to superficial, the deepest is stratum basal. This is stem cells, tactile cells, melanocytes. The next layer is going to be stratum granulosum. This is where the dendritic cells live. The next layer is going to be the granulosum. The next layer, and that's where the cells are starting to die there. They're getting too far away from the blood. And then the next layer, if it's thick skin, is going to be stratum lucidum. And then the top layer, the most superficial layer, is stratum corneum. So the function of the, number 6, the function of those stem cells in the stratum basal, they're the guys that are making the skin cells. They're going to go through mitosis. One of those cells is going to stay a stem cell. The other one's going to become a true keratinocyte. So the name of the skin cells are going to be keratinocytes. And then the tactile cells for feeling. And then we're going to have also the melanocytes that make melanin. So the next layer after the stratum basal, that's when they're going to be called true keratinocytes. That is the stratum spinosum. As we move up the layer, the keratin becomes more plentiful, and when they get to the more superficial layer, all the organelles and the cells are dead. Thick skin has more keratinocytes in the superficial layer. It also has an additional layer called the stratum lucidum. It is located deep to the stratum corneum. People all have about the same number of melanocytes, but we all have different shades because melanocytes produce different amount of melanin depending on your genetics. Also, another thing is melanocytes might be a black-brown, or it could be a red-yellow. Tanning is temporary because the melanocytes live in the epithelium. Epithelium goes through mitosis, so you're going to slough it off in a month. Tattoos are permanent because they go in the dermis. So that does not go through mitosis. It can regenerate, but it's not going to be the same as what you were born with. It's going to fill in with some scar tissue. The name of the smooth muscle located in the integumentary system, that's going to be the erector pili muscle. Let's see, I think we have some cool pictures here. There we go, the erector pili muscle. What are fingerprints? So those are the friction ridges where your epidermal ridges meet those dermal papilla, and they become very wide on your fingertips. So those are specific to you. If you need surgery on your integument, you hope your surgeon knows about those cleavage lines or tension lines so your incision does not dehiss, fall apart. Also, it minimizes scarring. Based on depth, a 3rd-degree burn is the most serious. Describe the rule of 9s and understand how this is used to determine severity based on surface area. So the regions of your body, if you had to do something like this, the regions of your body are labeled in percentage. So depending on how much of your body gets burned, they'll add those regions up. They can be in parts of 9, so 4.5 would be half of 9. It could be 9%. It could be 2 times 9, but they're going to figure out the surface area of burn to figure out how critical you are. Damage to the integument, such as burn, causes 2 serious problems. List the immediate concern first, dehydration, and then the second one is infection. What color is your skin mucous membranes? If you're cyanotic, cyanosis is blue. What causes it? Low oxygen. If you're jaundice, that's yellow, and it can be from liver disease or something damaging your red blood cells. Pallor means that you're pale, so maybe you're low on red blood cells, so anemic. Maybe you're undergoing some sort of shock, which causes low blood pressure. That can be lots of different things. Fear can induce it. All right, ultraviolet light radiation destroys DNA and causes cancer. So it's going to cause mutations in that DNA. List the 3 cancers in the skin PowerPoint from order of least severe to most severe. That would be basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and malignant melanoma. A keloid is an overproduction of scar tissue. It has a tendency to be shiny and smooth. It definitely seems to have a genetic link often. Vitiligo is where you have patches of melanocytes that don't work. A decubitus ulcer, you probably know it as a bed sore. It's where you have skin very close to a bony prominence and you've lost some fluff there. Maybe you don't have fat, maybe you don't have muscle. So the skin is pushing hard against that bony prominence and it's blocking the blood supply to the skin. No blood supply, no oxygen, skin dies, skin sloughs off, introduces infection. Albinism is where your melanocytes don't make melanin, and this is very dangerous. It promotes skin cancer, cataracts, retinal damage, because you don't have that melanin to protect your DNA. Seborrhea is overactive sebaceous glands. Remember, the sebaceous glands are in the hair follicles, and they produce an oil. In adults, that's dandruff. In infants, it's cradle cap. You get a chance to touch that hair. You can feel that the strands are very thick and tightly curled. How would you describe his hair follicles? Well, his hair follicles would be wide in diameter, but they would also be fairly skinny in depth. So they wouldn't be round or oval, and they wouldn't even be football shaped. They'd probably be a lot more squished than that. Describe the difference between these glands. Eccrine glands, they are sweat glands that just go straight up to the surface of the skin. And they produce a watery secretion via merocrine. So just create their product and exocytose it out. This is the kind of sweat that we think of when you go for a run, and you've got them all over the place. Apocrine glands are all only in the armpit and anogenital area. They produce a protein / fatty acid type production. Bacteria love to eat that, and it causes a scent. It's also merocrine, so exocytosis, and it's activated at puberty. Sebaceous glands are also dumping into both of these dump into the hair follicles. Sebaceous glands are the ones that are holocrine glands, so the whole cell dies and the product comes out through the hair. It makes your hair soft. Excess will make your hair kind of oily. And there you go.